Welcome to another manga recap. As usual, this video was highly audio mixed for headphones. Use headphones for a better experience. Today's video will be about Ending Maker Part 4. You can find all the previous parts and the details about this manga pinned in the comment section. Without further ado, enjoy the video. Also, special thanks to my patrons. It was just how it happened in the game. The Demon Hand organization attacked the gathering, and the main villain was standing right in front of them. And he finally found his target. Lucas was right in front of him. What was worst was that Lucas didn't have his sword. His only weapon in this situation was a small dagger that he hid in his sleeve. He starts talking with Lady Sylvia. He was currently not armed properly, so completely defeating the enemy will be impossible. The best course of action was, while he was blocking him with all he had, she should find an opening and run away. Of course, hearing all this, Sylvia started panicking. She couldn't just run and let him die. Even so, the enemy was not going to wait. Step by step, he got closer and closer to them with ice covering his feet. He gently raises his finger and starts chanting a spell. Before he manages to kill them, somebody else interrupts him. Savage flames of Lodos. A split of a second later, a huge fire explosion appeared in the middle of the room. Burn my enemy. And just like that, the leader of the Demon Hand got targeted by that giant spell. He only had a split of a second to react. For a second, it looked like the spell completely hit the target. Because of the force of the impact, Lucas dropped his dagger. He was doing his best to protect Lady Sylvia from the hit. Before he had time to recover, someone suddenly grabbed Sylvia's hand. Both of her and Lucas turn around surprised. It was Cordelia. She quickly tells them that they have to run away now. Young Master Lucas as well, they had to go that way quickly. The fire magician will most likely manage to buy some time for them, but it was not completely sure that he will win. What was she saying? Leaving behind an enemy and running away. As a knight, he couldn't do it. Cordelia wasn't having any of it. What the hell was he thinking to do without a weapon? Even more, did he fight against the magician before? And another thing, was he confident that he can even fight through those flames? He better think properly and decide quick. Also, he better remember whose name that guy said when he appeared. He was the target. He had to hide. Lucas didn't like this outcome, but slowly he realized that Cordelia was right. When he appeared, that guy was definitely targeting him. Annoyed by this, he clenches his fist knowing that he has to run. A second later, he started following Cordelia. She was guiding both of them towards an unknown direction. Of course, Yuda was with them as well. They kept running and running while the flames started covering the building. Before they managed to get away, Yuda hears somebody calling out his name. He looks to his left just to see Maya, who was watching them right from the middle of the danger. One of the Demon Hand worshippers was right behind her. And even worse, they were way too far to have time to react. He could just stay and watch what was going to unfold. The demon worshipper didn't waste any time. In a split of a second, he raises his sword and goes for the kill. Maya was not a warrior, she was just a maid. Scared, she just closes her eyes and braces for the hit. In that moment, Dahlia appears out of nowhere. She kills the demon worshipper in just one swift strike. Dahlia was enraged. To think that somebody would try to attack a maid from behind was just disgusting. After taking the blow, the demon worshipper falls onto the ground. She tells Yuda that they will quickly follow. He had no reason to stay there, so please escape with Lady Cordelia. He promptly answers and gets ready to leave. The fire was covering everything. The smell of the ash was so strong that you could barely breathe. Without stopping, they kept running and running. While doing so, Yuda was looking left and right trying to assess the situation. It was very obvious that the fighting force of the demon hand was way weaker than in the game. If it would went like how it did originally, Minos would have appeared last as the boss. But since he appeared with the initial ambush, that was the proof. And for now, the fire wizard that Cordelia contracted was actually managing to hold him back. The battle was in their favor. If they play this right, they might just survive. Look at those bloodshot eyes. It was more than obvious that he couldn't stand the fact that they slipped out of his grasp. But since both Lucas and Cordelia were there, slowly following them was the only thing that Minos could do. Obviously, they should finish preparing before that. In any case, they had to go that way. They needed to go next to those stairs. After reaching the location, Cordelia touches a statue. Reaching behind it, she presses a hidden button. A secret passage opened right in front of their eyes. Of course, seeing this, both Lucas and Sylvia were shocked. Where was this? Why was there a door inside the wall? Well, no, Master Yuder found that secret room. They just had to go in there first. Upon entering, they see multiple interesting things. A very large room with a huge magical circle drawn on it. Even more, the moonlight staff was waiting right there for Cordelia. And of course, a lot of swords ready to be used. Of course, Lucas noticed these things as well. Sylvia was already looking at the magical staff. A magical circle that she was seeing for the first time and some kind of a staff. She had no idea what was going on. She slowly asked Cordelia what was this place. Cordelia didn't have time to explain. She started opening some kind of a secret door. They were in a hurry, so she will explain later. She points towards the newly opened door, saying that Sylvia should go in there. After getting inside, she should stay there for a bit. Since she was not an important target, she should be fine if she just hides. Target? What does that even... Wait, before that, she was telling her to stay in there all by herself? It was fine, so she better get in there quickly. Go. She was going to open it when it was all over. Okay, she got it. No need to push so hard. After that exchange, Sylvia was safe and sound. Alright then, since Sylvia was now well hidden, the next part, Lucas was already grabbing one of the swords. Out of the blue, he says that he will return to the banquet hall. Of course, Cordelia turns annoyed towards him. Well, he found a usable weapon. And even more, as the knight, he doesn't wish to stay hidden in a secret room like that. And he was their target. The three of them should be safer while being separated from him. So now he will go to the knights and... Silence. Instantly, Lucas was not able to talk. Silence, rank C. Suppresses sounds emitted through the mouth of a target for a set duration. Yo, Cordelia is so badass. He turns around annoyed, trying to speak, but nothing comes out of his mouth. Cordelia was like, huh? What? Nah. Rather than hurting her ears while hearing him off, she cast a silence spell on him because that was going to be better overall. And also, she was being really nice to him explaining this. If the magic she cast on him wasn't silence but a paralysis spell instead, he wouldn't even be standing right now. Does he think that they ran all the way there just to hide and shiver because they're scared? Nah fam, this was an emergency. Their lives were in danger right now. Out of the blue, she starts ranting with game terms. If they win there, they will get a notification saying that they are the first in the server. And a ton of special articles will be written about them on the Legend of Heroes forum as well. Of course, Lucas had no clue of what she was talking about. Realizing that she was going a bit off track, Outboxer tries to calm her down. She starts talking with Lucas as well. The silver-haired man he saw. That was someone who accepted a demon in their body. When he heard this, it looked like he understood the situation. Cordelia was still pouting, looking at him. His true goal was to capture either him or Lady Cordelia. If he manages to defeat the magician that was blocking his path, he will definitely move to track them down immediately. So for this, they needed time to prepare. Right as they say that, the magician was defeated. It was more than obvious that Minos won, but because of the fight, his mask started cracking. And a second later, the mask was gone. Silver hair with one white eye and one black eye. Looking at his eyes, one being white and one being black, it was more than obvious that indeed he had a demon inside his body. Annoyed that he was delayed, he starts walking after the target. It was just him, the destroyed building, the fire, and countless corpses around him, both demon hand worshippers, knights, and magicians. There was no use in hiding. But they were really unnecessarily fast. And after a while, he found the secret room. Cold air and ice started to slowly open the door. All of them noticed this in an instant and they were getting ready to fight. Lucas was remembering Outboxer's words. The silver-haired man he saw was somebody who accepted a demon in his body. The cold air that he was feeling, it was binding his body. Young Master Yuder was definitely not joking. Before the fight started, Yuder started talking with him. 3 minutes. If they manage to hold that guy there for 3 minutes, they can win. And of course, his signature move, a glove that had a magical circle. With that glove on his hand, he was able to cast the magical spell that was written in the circle at any time for once. That was his ace in the hole. Right after that exchange, the doors start opening. Both of the doors are sent flying, and there he was. He was bored and unimpressed. There was no doubt about his victory. Right as he was thinking that, he notices something weird. Pieces of scrolls were flying around him. The scrolls exploded right on target. Although they were only 1-star scrolls, he threw a lot of counter attribute magic circles at him. Now the question was obvious. Did it work? It's not that he wasn't hurt. He was not even scratched. Even his clothes and hair were both intact. With the flick of a finger, he started creating ice. The ice was on the ground at his feet and forming in the air as well. This was an unbelievable level of cold. It looked like he couldn't damage him at all with just low-level magic spells. But of course, they had a secret plan. As long as he enters the room, Lucas and Cordelia chase. This was lucky for him since both of them were in the same room. Taking her gloves off, Cordelia was ready to fight. A sacrifice of this level might summon a demon with higher ranking than expected. This was working so well for Minos. And just like that, he enters the room. This was going as planned. He actually came inside the room. Of course, Cordelia was on the same page as well. A second later, he calls out to Cordelia. Taking her battle stance, she says that he didn't have to tell her. She instantly cuts her hand and starts activating the magical circle. And it was not just any magical circle. This was Velestein's magical circle, the one they used in the first episode. Of course, this magical circle was non-existent in this timeline. Minos had absolutely no way of knowing about this spell. This went according to their plan. While Minos was all chained up, Lucas was right in front of him holding his sword. He started panicking. What in the world was this? And YellowStorm started flaming. What do you think, bitch? This was a magical seal that even Lee's gang would struggle to break. He could try and struggle all he wanted. The stronger the targeted demon was, the more effective that magical circle gets. That was the power of Velestein's magical circle. That calm and collected expression he had was long gone. They were getting on his nerves. This mere magical trick can't possibly hold his powers down. In reality, although Cordelia was pretending to be strong, she already couldn't even stand up straight. But the only person that could maintain the magical circle was her. Since she couldn't spam potions like in the game, she could only maintain it just for a couple more seconds. Right as she was saying that, she was getting more and more dizzy. This was a short amount of time, but doesn't he think that that's enough? And the one she was talking with was Outboxer. The moment he saw that he was chained up, he started using ultimate footwork. Because of the speed of this spell, Minos didn't have time to react. I take it back, he did. He clenches his fist and starts casting some kind of a spell. After a second, dark magical power covers Outboxer. For him, it felt like he got frozen in place. This was a cold atmosphere that makes the body freeze. And the cold was yin energy that eats at the spirit of the body. For a normal human, even if they could withstand the cold, they would freeze on the spot because of the yin energy penetrating deep within the body. The problem though was that he was already used to yin energy like that. This was a 1 in a million chances when his sickness actually helped him. Seeing that he was not affected, Minos didn't know how to react. This was not possible. But he was not sure that the demon was used to yang energy though. And of course, the sun's necklace was full of yang energy. Minos didn't know what that was, but he knew that that artifact was dangerous. The moment he got within rage, Outboxer used Thunderclap. Just like his father taught him, he struck his target 7 times in a split of a second. Each strike was infused with strong yang energy from the sun's necklace. Seeing this, Lucas was shocked. That was an incredible combo. He heard rumors that he wasn't able to learn any skills because of his weak constitution. So how could he explain his prowess? After successfully landing the strikes, Yuda falls back. He was at a safe distance from Minos, who was still standing up. His hand was all beat up and in pain, even though he should be weakened after being sealed by the Wallenstein's magical circle. And he should have been hurt from fighting with Ronin, the fire magician. How the hell was he still standing? He was still standing, but it was pretty obvious that this time he got hurt. Not only do they have improved physical capabilities, he even possessed a physical body that was beyond the understanding of humans. However, he couldn't stop there. If he wins there, he will be the first on the server. Saying that, he dashes towards Minos once again. He clashes with the demon, but this time his strike was blocked. It was Yuda's turn to be surprised. His attack was supposed to be as fast as lightning, so he didn't expect it to be blocked. Even more, Minos managed to grab him by the hand. And of course, this time the demon was casting his own magic. It was more than obvious that he was in danger, so Cordelia starts screaming to Lucas. This was bad, he had to help him. Instantly reacting, he started to dash towards the two of them. Minos had just 1 second to react. Even so, while being chained up and holding Outboxer, it was not that easy. Lucas managed to cut his hand, but in the process he destroyed one of the chains. And surprisingly, again, Minos was hurt. He was actually in pain. His blade was shining bright white. That skill was the ancient sword skill that was only passed down through the generations of the Habsburg family. That power was nestled in the sword of the Holy King Graham when he slayed 5 great demons and created his kingdom. And the name of that skill was Holy Sword. Minos was going crazy. These kids were so annoying. Driven by rage, he starts casting magic again. This time, the ice was forming faster and bigger. Even so, Lucas was not backing off. He was still attacking. Both of them were very strong warriors. Minos was attacking with countless fast ice projectiles. On the other hand, Lucas was doing an amazing job repelling all the incoming attacks. He remembered Outboxer's words. 3 minutes. They had to last 3 minutes. In the backline, Cordelia was not doing so well. Blood was dripping on the floor. She was so fatigued and dizzy that she didn't even understand who was fighting with Minos. It felt like she got hit with a hammer. Her head was shaking. The whole world felt like it was spinning. The rate of the mana consumption was way greater than she thought it would be. At this rate, she could barely hear somebody calling out to her name. Outboxer gets close to her yelling out her name, but Cordelia was unresponsive. This was so hard to maintain. What was going on? Was she okay? She was not. She couldn't hold it anymore. He already knew, but could she do that? First, she needed to cancel the magical circle. She really couldn't hold it any longer. Even then, that was the only card they had left to play. Was she sure that she could handle it? She takes a second to reply and then breathes in heavily. All beat up, a smile appears on her face. Of course, who does he think that he's talking with? It was time to play their trump card. Back to the action, Lucas was still fighting on par with Minos. Ice shards were flying everywhere. Just like before, Lucas was managing to block all the incoming attacks. I have to say, I didn't expect Lucas to be this strong. I'm not sure, but it looked like Minos was getting close to his limit as well. And what was annoying was that he was just fighting some trifling human trash. In a moment of anger, he amplifies his magic. This time, Lucas was falling behind with more and more attacks hitting him. He had this much destructive power despite the fact that his entire body was sealed. Thus, his magic power know no bounds. The fight was starting to look grim. Lucas was being pushed back slowly but surely. Stop thinking negative thoughts. He doesn't have the luxury to back down anyways. If what young Master Yuder said was the truth, he couldn't allow that man to step outside the magical circle. In the backline, Yuder was already getting ready to attack again. As usual, he starts chanting the Solari prayer. There was only one chance. Cordelia was well aware of it. The plan was for Yuder to prepare his thunder-striking fist, and then when Minos' breathing becomes unstable, there was no point in saving it, it was just an item. If she fails there, either Lucas or her will end up becoming a demon king. The problem was that her sight was so hazy that he couldn't even get a proper lock on to her target. Since it's become like this, it couldn't be helped. She was going to rely only on the sound and her gut feeling. For the moment, Lucas was being able to push back towards Minos, and it was obvious that Minos was actually doing his best not to lose this fight. Lucas did his best to keep fighting, but of course, a moment later, Minos' strike was so fast that he was not able to block it. This was a heavy fight since both parties were hurt and in pain. With them in that state, this was the perfect moment for Cordelia to take action. Lucas raises his sword and prepares to dash towards the demon. This time he actually managed to land a strike. Both Lucas and Minos realized that he got hit. Right in the moment, the chains break. This was Cordelia's moment to shine. Right now, she raises the moonlight staff into the air, which starts shining with a bright light. Minos got surprised since he didn't expect the seal to randomly break. The seal was actually broken. Lucas noticed it as well. This was not the same fight he fought until now. Most likely, he wouldn't be able to fight Minos anymore. The glory of the moon. Hearing Cordelia talk, both of them turn towards her surprised. Awaken from your deep slumber. She smacks the floor with the wand. And shine your light here. The staff was so strong that you could feel the magical pressure changing in the room. Moonlight magic started to slowly form around her staff. And just like that, the light became brighter and brighter. Minos didn't know what this was, but he knew that something big was coming. The light was so bright that he was forced to look away. Moonlight. They were using another trick, and in the meantime, Outboxer was using the moonlight to charge the sun's necklace. This was their plan all along. Moonlight is basically sunlight, so this was the best way to charge the pendant. And of course, Minos realized that he was in danger. He tries to raise his hand in order to protect his eyes from the light. The moonlight was gathering on the necklace. Just what were they planning? Right when he was thinking that, his hand starts to burn. there was no point to try to block it. This was the result of combining the magic power of the moon that has been accumulating over 100 years and the holy artifact that was imbued with the power of the sun god Solari. Hearing all this, Lucas was a bit surprised. If they were using a normal sword until now, he guessed that now they could use a lightsaber. Cordelia was a bit annoyed. What the hell was he saying? All of this was nonsense. Even so, the light was dangerous. He had to do something. He needed to get out of that closed room and move somewhere else where the light can be diffused. In that moment, Outboxer realized that he was trying to run away. Where the hell did he think that he was going? It was time for his ultimate spell. His ace in the hole, the magical circle on his glove. The spell was not any powerful spell. He just casted grease on the floor. My guy predicted that this would happen. A second later, Midos falls onto the ground. The reason was obvious. The floor was slippery. He was lying on the ground defenseless with his back turned towards the light. Outboxer was already ready to engage. Using his ability, he dashed right towards the demon. He stops right next to him, getting ready to strike with everything he had. Minos knew that he was in danger. He had to prepare for the attack. Raising his hand in the air, Outboxer was getting ready to deal the finishing blow. In the background, Cordelia was pointing him that it was execution time. Outboxer hits him right in the face with everything he got. The impact was so strong that it shattered the floor. The light of the hit was so bright that Lucas had to cover his eyes. After a second, he quickly raises his head in order to see what happened. Minos was lying lifeless on the ground. He barely managed to finish it. Knowing that they actually won this fight, he closes his eyes. In the backline, Cordelia was lying on the ground exhausted. For a split of a second, it looked like his hand moved. Cordelia noticed this and shivers came down her spine. She instantly starts screaming. She calls out his name, trying to get his attention. Minos was not dead and he even managed to grab Outboxer. He was charging everything he had. It was time for him to show them his true power. There was no way. Can they really not win? Demon King Minos, constructed only to defeat the player. He was the one who has never shown his end to anyone. Cordelia knew that this was over. In that moment though, something unexpected happened. It surprised both Minos and Outboxer. His demon hand fell down on the floor. Lucas noticed it as well. Minos looks at his hand a bit confused. What was this? He realized what was going on and he didn't like the result. This was impossible. He didn't even lose yet. A grin appeared on his face. Magic power. He just needed to supply magic power. Then a fissure like that. This was not making any sense. He raises his head towards the light. Realizing that he was going to die, he starts screaming. He yells at Yuder, begging him to go away, but it was too late. Nah, bro, this is over. In that instant, he raises his hand and then strikes him right in the head once again with all the magical power he had left. Once again, Lucas closed his eyes. After a second, when opening his eyes, he realized something. The silver earrings finally fell onto the ground. The demon was no more. All his body got destroyed. In that moment, Outboxer got multiple notifications saying that he leveled up. A second later, he turns around to see if Cordelia was alright. With this, it was finally over. The problem was that Cordelia was lying on the ground. There was no response coming out from her. Seeing this view, terror and anger got all over him. A second later, he starts to slowly walk towards Cordelia. With his vision getting all blurry, he was doing his best to try to get to her. Before he manages to do that, he starts falling onto the ground. Seeing this, Lucas rushes towards him. While he was trying to call out to her name, Lucas manages to catch him before falling. He was at his limit. It was time to pass out as well. You have attained the title, the one who makes the impossible possible. All stats will be increased by 5%. The next moment, he wakes up in the bed yelling out her name. If you watch until this point, come on, subscribe. He was alone in a room with only Maya next to him. Let's go, Maya is okay. He realized that this was in Longest. In that moment, Maya calls out his name. Hearing that, he quickly turns around. Seeing that he was okay, Maya was almost crying. Man, I love Maya. She starts crying, saying that she's so relieved that he was awake. So, how was his body? It was a bit numb, but he was not hurting anywhere, so she had nothing to worry about. More important, did she get hurt? She didn't. She was fine because of Dame Dahlia. That was good to hear. He should thank her later. Also, did she not sleep at all? Well, her job was to nurse him, so she didn't. It was really a relief that he was fine. He properly thanks her and asked how is everyone else. Well, young Master Lucas, who was with him, has been sent to a hospital, while Lady Cordelia, who was also unconscious, has been sent to her villa after being administered first aid. The doctor said that she just overworked herself. Both of them should make a full recovery. There were a lot of other injured people as well, but the people who ambushed the social gathering have mostly been taken care of. The knights and magicians were handling the situation. That was really good to hear. Out of nowhere, Maya grabs him by the hand. She was all giddy. Basically, you could see light coming out of her face. Young master. Huh? Lady Cordelia was still laying down as well, but she regained her consciousness just a moment ago. So, if he was okay with it, will he go and see the lady? Well, it was more than obvious that he couldn't just say that he doesn't want to. He would be supporting Maya's delusions though, but in the end, he needed to go and check for himself if she was really okay. Okay then, take him to Lady Cordelia's room. While walking towards Cordelia, he couldn't help but feel like he was forgetting something. What in the world was he forgetting? After arriving, they are welcomed by Dahlia as well. She opens the door and tells him that they will be waiting outside, so please feel free to talk as much as you want. When he entered the room, it was more than obvious that YellowStorm was annoyed. I take it back, she was not annoyed, she was just feeling really sick. In Outboxer's words, I quote, "No reaction, just a corpse." Well, at the end of the day, it was a relief that she was unarmed. Seeing him, she actually got annoyed. How did he even walk there? She was so dizzy when she stood up before that she just fell over. Really? That bad? Yup, she used way too much mana. Her head was very heavy and she was staying still, but occasionally the world spins. So basically it was like a hangover, right? A bit confused, she raises her head. Huh? He asked if it was similar to having a hangover. She takes a second to think, saying that, kind of? Seeing how slow her reactions are, she didn't seem well at all. If it was too hard, then she could just lie down. Hangover? No, she was feeling fine, she was feeling better now. That being said, did she hear that before getting collapsed? That, what was he talking about? Well, her new title. This brightened up the mood instantly. Title, she was so tired that she thought she hallucinated it. But did she really get a new title? She didn't just hear things? One who makes the impossible possible. Yep, that was right, that was the title. That was so fucking cool. If this happened in the game, she would have completely flipped Legend of Heroes. That's how cool the title was. The chat room would have been on fire as well. And gaming companies might have even contacted her as well. She was in absolute bliss. This was better than she ever imagined. Outboxer just laughs a bit and looks at her while smiling and not saying anything. 1 second later, his mean switch turned on. Now that he was thinking about it, she was not saying anything about him letting her have the last attack. Oi, is that important right now? He doesn't waste a second and continues with the mini switch. It was pretty good for getting her title, but he gets interrupted by YellowStorm, who was as happy as a child, saying that Dahlia is still alive. Dahlia told her that Viola and Felix were both rescued. Even more, if you add the mages and the escort knights who came to help, let's see, it would be more than 30 people. Some of the Ronins got hurt, but no one lost their lives. And among the escort knights, there wasn't anyone who got badly injured. Even though this many people were kidnapped like in the game, none of them died. They saved so many people. With a warm smile on her face, she said that she felt like they were getting closer to their perfect happy ending. There was no way that he would not be affected by this view. Out of nowhere, he puts his hand on top of her head. To be honest, I expected a gentle pat on the head, but he starts to just shake her a bit. After a couple of seconds of ruining her hair, she slaps him off. His mean switch was turned off, but he just wanted to do this. What the hell was he doing? He was a bastard. He laughs a bit, apologizing. She was being so admirable that he did it without thinking. Growling, she says that he will seriously kill him. Taking a seat, he starts talking. Now, in any case, she was really glad that they've made it through the hurdle. Yep, she will give him that. Has he concocted any other plans? For now, he was thinking that the next scenario was going to follow the game as is. Yuda was still suffering from the 9-inch severed meridian, so it will have to be Cordelia. Then, after avoiding the devil's hand, she will have to run away into the forest. It was to the north, right? Indeed, and after that, he was planning to go towards the front lines to the north, since if they go past that, there was an item that will cure the 9-inch severed meridians once and for all. If they go to the northern front lines, that would be in the Count's Hellzorg territory. That was right, so they'll have to get some help from Lucas. Wait a minute. Lucas. Both of them, with perfect sync, realized the thing that they forgot all this time. Sylvia. They forgot about Sylvia, who was still in that hole. The room was filled with sounds of somebody crying. Sylvia was crying like a child. How could she forget about her? Cordelia was the type to cry when someone else cries, and while doing so, she was doing her best to apologize. Lucas and Outboxer were in the back and without saying anything. They met Lucas at the entrance. Why in the world he didn't remember it more sooner? He definitely had enough time to think about things calmly. It was strange. A situation that would make him forget completely about Sylvia. That was insane. Without time to finish his thought, he saw the blood on the ground. Oh yeah, right. There was one situation like that. A facepalm was due after realizing what he just did. She was so scared. It was dark and the noises outside were so loud. She was even shouting to let her out, but nobody heard her. She thought that she was going insane. All three of them were feeling so awkward because they cast magic so the sound from inside the pit couldn't be heard from the outside. Dahlia approaches her, saying that a knight of the Count Crossvale family has arrived, so while Sylvia was crying while being carried away, Cordelia was apologizing once more. She was really sorry. After Sylvia leaves, she turns around annoyed. Oi, but what was Lord Lucas doing all this time? He didn't even let Sylvia out. Lucas apologizes, saying that he was deeply ashamed. But Outboxer knew the truth. Come on, that was obvious. Because of the silencing magic, he couldn't tell anyone that Sylvia was there. And he was dragged away by the escort knights to the hospital. So he came back now that he's been healed and the spell was lifted. Dahlia awkwardly apologizes. She was also sorry. She was purposely hiding news of Miss Sylvia's situation. She was planning to tell her after her condition was stable. Cordelia quickly turns around towards her, saying that no, it's fine, it was not her fault. It was all young Lord Lucas' fault. Her words were cutting deep. He will have to stop her, since they absolutely need Lucas' help in order to get to North. It will be troublesome if their relationship falls apart there. So, just like that, he starts talking with Lucas. Was he recovering well? Since he received the attack of a demon being head-on, his injuries should be quite severe. After being healed with magic, it was fine. Even so, he thought that it would be better for him to rest a while longer in his room just in case, since Miss Sylvia has also been rescued and now was safe. For a second, Lucas doesn't reply and just looks into the ground. In truth, he had something he would like to ask of him. Of him? Okay, sure thing, go ahead. Yes, something about him. He wanted to ask if it was true that he has not been completely cured from the 9 severed meridians. Well, that was completely true. So then, he really did display that level of martial arts with a chronically ill body. Then, his next question was, if he were to be cured, how much stronger could he become? The Count's land was located to the northernmost part of the kingdom. Beyond the borders, it was a frozen land that goes beyond the extremes of bitter cold. Dahlia and Cordelia were listening very careful. Lucas continues. There lies a method that could cure him of the 9 severed meridians, once and for all. Hearing this, Outboxer says that he was really thankful for that suggestion. But why was he doing this for him? A bit blustered, he stumbled his words, saying that, well, that's because he feels that he could be a worthy rival. Although it was a bit embarrassing to say, the truth was that he never had a rival that could oppose him in his age group. Until now, that was. Bro, he was actually saying it out loud. Of course, people might think that that is a good thing, but in reality he's always felt like he was alone because of it. That's why he always wished for an opponent that was a similar level to him, so that they could strive for greatness together. Okay, so what he was saying was that Sir Lucas, the one called the Prodigy, was treating him as his rival. Well, pretty much. Outboxer was dying inside. This was so cringe. But of course, he couldn't say that. He replied saying, it's an honor. Maintaining perfect expression control in the middle of all this. He was a perfect con artist. He was well aware that the suggestion came out of nowhere, but he really hoped that he would think over it carefully. He wishes to hear his reply tomorrow evening at the meeting. Pardon? At the meeting tomorrow? What meeting? Dahlia intervenes, saying that she hasn't been able to inform the two of them since they only just woke up. But until the extra guards of all the children of the 12 houses come from their respective families, they've decided that everyone should stay put inside Langast. There could be another attack. The meeting young Master Lucas just mentioned was one focused on the attack incident, since there are some who sustain injuries, and considering that most of the attendees were minors, there were a few who find it hard to stay mentally healthy. The meeting was suggested by the Blue Lion Knight Order. It was happening tomorrow evening. This was in order to let everyone rest, so that's why he talked about tomorrow evening, since they need to go in detail about their fight against the Demon King as well. He must absolutely attend it. Understood. He will give him his reply about his suggestion after the meeting concludes tomorrow. Perfect. Then he will excuse himself first. After that exchange, each of them bow down to salute each other. And just like that, Lucas turns around and leaves the room. The moment Lucas was gone, Outboxer started analyzing. This was really lucky. It was basically the ideal outcome. He wanted that exact thing to happen. A little bit later, YellowStorm and Outboxer were in a lounge talking with each other. Why did he hesitate if he was going to go anyways? Well, he needs to give the impression that he got to this conclusion after thinking deeply about it. He was sure that she also knew that Lucas was thirsty for a worthy rival. He was probably really nervous about if he will decline him or not. While playing with her hair, Cordelia was a bit surprised. Outboxer was always surprising her in a way or another, of course. Alright, then about the meeting tomorrow. She feels like they will need to match what they were saying in there. It was about them defeating Minos, right? That was right, although Lucas did join in, Minos was still someone who should have been impossible for just the three of them to defeat. Well, can't they just say that he was really tired and weakened because of his fight with Ronin? And Ronin was alive, his tales of heroism just increased. They could say that, but regarding the fake document, he gave it to her just in case, but she said that there was no need for it, right? Indeed, but she kept getting nervous with it on her, so she quickly burned it while Dahlia wasn't there. Well, that was fine, it was a good result. But on his side, he had to use his father's name, as he thought he needed to pull out a card there. Pull out a card. What was he saying? Did he have another plan? He starts explaining her his plan. She was like, I see. That was pretty cool. Okay. Alright then, they should do that. He will do the main commentary about what happened, so she just had to agree with him once in a while. That was easy, leave it to her. To say that she liked this plan was an understatement. To leave all the talking to him and not do anything, that's just perfect. Seeing her reaction, he couldn't help but smile. Also, how was her dizziness? Was it gone now? Doesn't she have to rest more? Well, her head was still a little heavy, but she was feeling fine now. Also, what was that when he activated it? Huh? What was she talking about? If it was a magical circle on a glove, shouldn't it obviously be the Flame Alchemist? He should have snapped just like this. Snap, snap. So, she fainted while thinking of Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, what the hell? Was that really that important? Of course, the colonel is disappointed in him. What? No, it shouldn't be that much. And also, what else do they say? Something that might become a big topic. Outboxer noticed something strange. She was not acting as normal. She was more scatterbrained than usual. No, rather than scatterbrained, she was not relaxed at all. That was the vibe that he was getting from her. He calls out her name and she turns towards him with a bright smile on her face. How was she actually feeling? Was she feeling anxious? He was pretty much shocked that he noticed this. After a second of silence, while the wind was blowing her hair, she stops smiling and looks down on the ground. She was not feeling anxious, that was not the right word. But after going back in there, she remembered that they barely won against Minos. Her body is tired, but she couldn't sleep. Yup, he knew what she meant. The thing that follows the excitement of completing an incredibly dangerous thing was the worry that what's about to come. Despite the difficulty, they did manage to defeat him together. But in the end, Minos was just the first boss. There was absolutely no guarantee that the next incident would be resolved safely as well. A bit annoyed on the situation, he was gently tapping the chair. This was not enough. If they want to stop the destruction of the Pleiades, they need to make a more foolproof plan. And of course, the only way was to get really fucking strong. She was thinking that they were on the same page, so let's do their best. Outboxer laughs a bit, saying alright, but he didn't think so. With this exchange, she was feeling a bit better. Alright, that was all the worrying she was doing for today. The first and second place are together, so it will all work out in the end. Yep, let's think positively just like that. Now that she was thinking about it, from their main houses, she was wondering who's coming for them. Does he have any idea? Probably someone stronger than the knights? I don't know. Somewhere else far away, somebody was screaming. Oh, this is the lord who was working with the demon hand. He was so close. If he just had the power of the demon still with him. Why were people like him on that pathway anyways? Well, he thought it was odd for someone to hide in a forest like this in the middle of the night. So, he was a demon worshipper. There he was, Lord Arthur. Also, less important, Yuda's brother was in the background. The next day, 8 p.m. meeting room. Out of nowhere, he tells everyone that they met the fairy queen. After him saying this, silence took over the room. The general starts speaking. What does that even... He only asked him about the fight against the Demon King. He knew that all of that was confusing, but he wanted them to listen to him. While they were moving towards Langast, Lady Cordelia and him spent a quiet time together at a creek in the woods. It was a fantastical night with a beautiful moon shining down on them. Of course, the thing that captivated him the most was the beautiful image of Lady Cordelia smiling under the moonlight. Hearing this, Cordelia was already losing it. But the truth was that he was not the only one who was admiring her beauty. When he left the area for a brief moment, fairies appeared from somewhere and approached her to invite her to their Queen's Night Parade. And since Lady Cordelia, due to her kind heart, couldn't easily decline the fairies' request, a biker suddenly appeared and attacked the fairies. Hearing this, everybody started to panic. Was he talking about the monster with two horns? That was right, it seemed that it had frequently harassed the fairies before. And just like that, he starts telling them all the story. And he keeps going and going and going. He was so good at this that he literally shocked Cordelia. A literal con artist doing his job. And so like that, due to the fairies' queen help, they were able to defeat the Demon King. Okay, but young Master Yuder, fairies exist only in fairy tales, that's why they're called fairy tales. But the mages realized that that dust was definitely from the bicorn's horn. The power of chaos was imbued in it. It was an existence as rare as a unicorn. Yet they were looking right at it. And there was also traces of moonlight being stored in the staff as well. No, even now, after they told them that the power has been expanded, it still very much has the magic power of the moon within it. Hearing all this, the commander didn't know what to say. Only Cordelia was able to meet the fairies in the game. That's how rare of an existence they are. No one had any way of confirming if that information was true or not. In order to persuade Sir Barlia, he said that information came from his father. But he did that because he felt like he wouldn't believe if he said that it was from the Fairy Queen. So if he would explain that this could only happen only by borrowing his name, his father would understand him. Because he was someone who would overlook this if there was a valid reason, just like now. Out of the cards he could use, this was the best one. So that's why he was able to defeat it. Well, the appearance of fairies could be plausible considering Lady Cordelia's beauty. Even she was nearly enchanted as a girl. Hearing them, Cordelia was going crazy. Then, does it mean that everything he said until now was true? Okay then, understood. Alright, it looked like in the end it finally worked. But since they were still not sure of the goal of the Demon King, as previously planned until the additional guard knights of each family arrive, they should remain in their lodgings. That was all. For now, the meeting was over. Before they managed to leave, somebody calls out their name. It was Sylvia, who was finally not crying anymore. She tells them that she couldn't talk properly to them back then since it was so hectic. Although she was a bit late, she thanks them for saving her life. Cordelia tells her that she doesn't need to thank them at all. After all, she was very scared, right? She was, but now she was fine. So, the story about fighting the Demon King was a bit scary. But even so, she kinda wanted to hear more about those fairies. Would that be okay? Of course, she was more than happy to tell her everything about it. Hearing that, Sylvia was more than happy. She turns around calling out to Viola as well, don't just stand there. They should all go together and talk like girls. Alright, Cordelia could take care of that side. Now, the important thing was, where was Lucas? Lucas was right in front of him. So, has he finished thinking it over? He was impatient. Perfect. Then, let's get in touch on another weakness. He did, even after thinking over for such a long time rather than the method of curing his illness. He was more moved by him treating him as a worthy rival. Hearing this, Lucas flinched. He was at a loss of words, he didn't know what to say. The hidden setting of Lucas that appears in the game was the fact that he was a maniac for hero fantasy novels. And the thing he just said right now was from the novel that Lucas likes the most. These were the words that the rival says to the main character in the Wildvein saga. So most likely, while they're talking like this, Lucas will be immersed in the feelings of his childhood. He will feel like he became the hero he respected. Although it hasn't been long since he stepped onto the road as a martial artist, he wanted to respond to the kind invitation the young master has set. He will be in his care. Also, he was looking forward to the northward adventure with him. Hearing all that, Lucas was almost blushing. In that moment, Dahlia notices the two of them talking. She didn't say anything, but just watched them from afar. Now another problem appeared. Emergency. I take it back. Super emergency. What was she doing? Going to the north with Lucas. Of course, he had the 9 blocked in pathways cure as a reason, but her? Excuse me? They were even sending people from the main house to pick her up, so what excuse could she use to go to the north? Even more, does he know what Dahlia said? Seeing as young Master Lucas was happy, it looked like young Master Yuder was thinking of going to the north. Won't she be lonely? Huh? Her? Why? Laughing a bit, she says, well, because you'll return to the house. Just like that, they thought that he was the only one who wanted to go, so what can she do? Outboxer laughs a bit, saying that he thought it was something serious. I mean, he got invited. Okay, so by that logic, she will be fine as well. She takes a second to try to understand, but it didn't look like she did. She should do the same thing that she did last time. Everyone will understand. The thing that she did last time? Hey, wait, no way, not that thing again. Well, if his illness gets cured in the northern area, he will hug her, lift her, jump fences for her and nurse her. He will do anything for her. And with a shameless smile, he's like, so please act your heart out and send away the people that came all the way to Langast just for you. Act as natural as possible. Thank you, YellowStorm. She really couldn't stand this guy sometimes. She started pulling her hair out of anger, knowing that that was probably the only way to go. Even thinking about it was pissing her off. Hey yo, he goes like, sorry, love you. What? Hearing that, YellowStorm exploded. She goes, what the hell are you even saying, you bastard? And just like that, 4 days have passed since the ambush by the Demon Hand. That morning, the Knights of the Earl Crossbell and Viscount Lange arrived, and left with Sylvia and Viola. The parting was pretty sad, with Sylvia crying on her way out. Cordelia was just waving at her, watching her leave. But they should be able to protect them anytime after stopping the destruction of the plates. Going into the afternoon, Felix and the other children all left one by one. And in the end, it was just her, Yuder, and Lucas left. The men of the Earl Bale and Earl Chase should be arriving tomorrow morning. Just thinking about it made her head hurt. As usual, she goes like, fuck, I really don't want to do that. Even so, the next morning, seeing who arrived for them, both of them got shocked. The one and only Arthur, he was here. Why was her father there? Also her brother-in-law. Yuder's brother laughs a bit, saying hi, Lady Cordelia, it's been a while. He heard the story. He became way much stronger in the few days that he didn't see him. So, was he fine? Any injuries? No, he was all good now. But why was he there? Well, since Earl Chase was coming personally, they should at least send the heir of the House Bale to match the level, right? So, his silly brother ended up being summoned because of Earl Chase. In that moment, Arthur starts talking with him. So he faced with a demonkin with Cordelia. His tone was a bit surprising, it sounded like he was angry. Well, yes, with Lady Cordelia and young Master Lucas. They were able to defeat it thanks to the magicians and the Crimson Dawn Tower. He was still weak if he can't defeat one alone. He just can't put his mind at ease since he's so weak. It's not much, but keep it with you. It wasn't prepared for him, so don't misunderstand. I swear to God, Arthur is the best. Whenever we see Arthur, they get like OP items and upgrades. Also, he was way too skinny. He coincidentally brought something on the way there, so take it as well. As shameless as usual, he tells him, "Father-in-law, I love you." In that moment, Cordelia pokes him from behind. She was angry. Stop getting so happy and just talk about that. In that moment, he starts talking with both his father and Lord Arthur. He has something that he wants to tell them. Arthur was already aware of his planned trip. Since it was the northmost region of all Empire, it will be a long journey. Even so, since it was an offer extended by young Master Lucas, he was thinking of accepting it. They should probably just remake the escort group. Wait, what? He was giving him permission? What? Of course. His father probably won't say much about it either. This was her cue. She knew that she had to do the thing. Out of nowhere, she jumps and hugs Yuder. She wanted to go as well. She wanted to go with her lovely Yuder as well. She really didn't want to be separated from him. The silence was painful. Nobody knew how to react to that. Yuda's brother starts laughing. Is that so? In reality, she was squeezing his arm so hard that it was in total pain. His brother was like, look at her hiding behind Yuder due to embarrassment. So cute. Brother, she was breaking his arm. Arthur had something to say about this. She looked really angry. She questions if a weakling like him could protect Cordelia. He was going to prepare some items for him just to be sure. So be sure to take them before you go. At this point, it's safe to say that Outboxer was pretty confused. She kept looking angry while gifting him a lot of items. This was confusing. Before the arrival, Maya asked them if it's possible she wants to go with them as well. She understood how she felt, but she was not a knight, they can't risk it. Outboxer agreed, it will be dangerous, it would be better if she stayed behind. Okay then she will wait the day he returns to the mansion. Also, Earl Chase told her to give him this. He said that he prepared a new engagement ring. He promptly thanks her for delivering this. He will give this to Cordelia as well. Then, brother and Maya have a safe trip home. And just like that, they departed. Also, somebody starts talking with Maya. It was Dahlia who asked her that after returning to give her the next book of the series that she showed her. After that small exchange, they just watched the carriage getting further and further. Then they should start getting ready. Before that, could they meet with young Master Lucas for a minute? They had something really important to talk about. Were they referring about the Witch's Forest? Indeed, the Fairy Queen said that Lady Cordelia's fate is tightly intertwined with the Witch's Forest. So they told themselves that they should visit the Witch's Forest if they ever went north. This was sudden and out of nowhere. If they do this, they will need to alter the course of the journey. It was known that monsters appear in the Witch's Forest. As guards, they put their safety above everything else, so it was very difficult for them to recommend that route. They already knew that it was dangerous. However, she also told them that inside the Witch's Forest is the soul of a pitiful witch that has been suppressed by evil beings, and that the only one who could free her was Lady Cordelia. Stumbling her words, she agrees with Outboxer. Although it wasn't the Fairy Queen who told that, but although in reality it was not the Fairy Queen who told them that. But at the end of the day, it was true that there was a Cordelia-specific event like that in the forest. Shameless as usual, he continues. Since it was important enough for the Fairy Queen to personally tell them that, they will definitely have a mystical experience there. Although they might have to fight monsters like the Bicorn, that was also part of the adventure. Adventure had the same effect as keywords have on YouTube. That piqued his interest. Cordelia tries to agree with him again. Although it was a bit scary, she was getting a bit excited. It was almost like a hero story. Since they have their trusty knights there as well, they have nothing to fear. Hero story, trusty knights. He was convinced. Alright then they will take a detour to the witch's forest for Lady Cordelia. It was the duty of a knight to protect the lady, so she will have nothing to worry about. Outboxer laughs a bit, saying that he probably really wanted to say that. Then she will go and inform the knights. She asks that the two of them will also tell their guards as well. After that exchange, they watch them getting further and further. She kinda felt guilty and responsible in the same time. Him as well, but for now, let's just say that they did good. Okay, here we are at the end of the video. Just like all the previous parts, I love this manga. It definitely took second place for my favorite mangas ever, the first one being Pick Me Up. So I will also do part 5, which will be the next video on this channel. Next week, if I'll have enough chapters, I might do part 6 for Pick Me Up. As usual, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and that's it for now.